It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
We all seem to have that inner critic inside our heads. I have the itty-bitty shitty committee, and you know what I mean, that nagging voice, or voices in my case, that knocks us down and drags us down the road of self-sabotage and self-neglect. A strong, positive sense of self-esteem is your first step to anything you wish to accomplish. Discover who you truly are, that gorgeous, talented, fabulous woman who deserves recognition and unconditional love. You know, the most beautiful thing any woman can wear is confidence. Here on Confidence in Bloom with the Divas That Care Network, I, Tina Spolatini, speak with women living in their own self-confidence about who they truly are, how they found themselves, and how they care for themselves. Today I'm speaking with Allison Prest. Allison and I have had a couple chats already, and we have been talking about menopause. Today we're going to be talking about menopause and the effects it has on our joints and our muscles and our ligaments. Allison is a professional menopause specialist coach and hypnosis practitioner. Her area of expertise is working with women, particularly those in their peri- and postmenopausal phases. She aims to help women understand their bodies, minds, and souls as they go through natural transformations into menopause and beyond. Together, they break down barriers and challenge outdated beliefs about aging. Her objective is to empower women to find self-acceptance and fill their cups. She's a certified Mind Rebel coach, a national guide of hypnotist graduate, and a menopause coaching specialist with Girls Gone Strong. Recently, she's joined the Menopause Expert Group and became a licensed menopause champion. Her vision is to serve her community of powerful women and help them live a passionate and fulfilled life. Okay, Allison, my friend, let's chat. Let's chat menopause. Now, yes. So maybe we should start with, do we have a recap? We don't have a recap of what we've talked about. Let's dive into muscles, joints, and body pain. Right? Because and I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. I hope I'm not the only one, but sometimes I feel pain, but I can't tell you where the pain is. It's kind of like everything hurts, but I feel no pain.
You ache.
Yeah. Can you tell me about that? Tell me what that is. Is it menopause? Is it?
Yes.
It is menopause. Great.
It absolutely is very hand in hand with menopause in regards to joint health, joint pain, tendons, ligaments, muscles. Again, it's the hormones. They really do play a huge part in that piece. So if you have low estrogen, estrogen controls our inflammation in our body. And so when you consider, a lot of times our joint pain is related to inflammation, right? Osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, that's an inflammation illness. And so they do go hand in hand. So if your estrogen levels are lowering, that means your inflammation most likely is going up, and it attacks your joints. It also is a decrease in your collagen. Estrogen plays a role in helping create collagen, and then that attacks ligaments and tendons. And then they get sort of what I call sort of stiff and brittle. And remembering that tendons is attached to our bones. And so when these start to happen, you start to see more and more issues on injury. And we have to remember that our bone density begins to decrease as well as we age. And so it sort of becomes like this perfect storm for basically having any sort of bone breaks, joint health. It all is one big happy family of pain. And so you get the aches and the pains, and you notice that it sneaks up on you, because it probably started years ago, and then it just you just sort of think, I worked out, or I slept wrong. But then when it's become so much more consistent, you just start to go, okay, I'm not recovering as much as well as I used to. And sometimes it's like, what am I recovering from? I didn't do anything. Like I didn't do anything that should cause this pain. Therefore,
right, exactly.
what's the next step sort of thing, and what we could do about it. But it is definitely probably one of the biggest symptoms outside of hot flashes and sleep deprivation. You will hear a lot of women complain joint health, joint pain, anything along the lines of inflammation of the body that's causing these aches and pains. For sure.
Wow. So if you go, let's say you're in my stage. So I'm kind of, I should be, I hope, at the end of the perimenopause. Like I should be into like menopause soon, right? Because I've been fighting this for a while now. But I'm just wondering if we start
visualizing you like fighting it out, like, all right.
yeah, because I'm very physical, right? I if I was to start, say, an anti-inflammatory diet, right? Mm-hmm. So where we're eating all the colors of the, the garden, right? Because that's basically what the anti-inflammatory diet is.
Absolutely.
How does that affect like the menopause symptoms that I'm having?
You're going in. I think it's you should do it, right? Because we're no longer have necessarily that frontline defense of estrogen. So it's now our turn to go, okay, what should we be doing? So diet, absolutely, anti-inflammatory diet is key to help keep that inflammation down. It's sort of like you're trying to control the narrative. So then, I mean, nothing is a perfect solution, right? It's now, okay, I have this pain, so I should probably start to make some different decisions in my food and my nutrition that will at least help alleviate some of the inflammation in my body. All the colors of the rainbow. Absolutely, that's key, right? More vegetables, making sure they're very colorful, making sure you have your omega-3s in your diet. Flaxseed is very important. Turmeric, ginger, those are all fantastic spices. Cinnamon, those three are top threes for anti-inflammatory. So you could start adding those into your diet. You can drink those teas like cinnamon tea, turmeric tea, ginger tea, combine it all. All these things, it just gives you a little bit more of control of what the narrative is at this point. And then, of course, as much as it's challenging if you're in extreme pain, obviously you want to talk to your doctor to see, like, what's the threshold of pain here. And again, they would also probably advise you the anti-inflammatory route and moving our bodies. The whole point, I know, like I have osteoarthritis in my knees and my hips. I know it starts off uncomfortable, but I also know if I move my body, it will help. It's one of those, if I don't move my body, it hurts more later on. So it's
right. So like you've been
22.
sitting, right. Let's say you've been sitting watching a movie, and you get up because you need to go to the washroom, and you're in pain because you've been sitting, and so you're stiff. But by the time you actually get up, go to the washroom, wash your hands, maybe grab a drink and come back to the couch, you feel like your body is sort of loosened up and you're feeling better.
It's like lubricating your joints, right?
Right.
It's sort of like, I know for myself, if I'm in more, like you sleep at night, right? Your body's regenerating itself. But I do find before I get up in the morning, I do a lot of movement in my bed before I go to stand on my knees and my hips, just to sort of wake up the joints. So I do those knee bends, and sort of I do what they call the 90-90s, where you're just dropping your knees side to side, sort of circle my ankles, just to kind of feel like you're sort of lubricating the joint before you're going to get up.
Yeah,
and I find that
waking up the body.
Wake it up. It's waking up the joints. And it's sort of one of those things you think to yourself, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm not in my 40s anymore. I'm not in my 30s anymore. You don't really expect it, but once it hits, there are things we could definitely do to make it easier on us and to be able to make it more acceptable and go, okay, this is just the next phase. But if I do these little things, these little tips and tricks, it's not as detrimental.
Right. Do you talk to your body? Like when you're doing those things? Yeah. Like when you're doing your stretches in the morning, I do a body stretch in the morning as well. I don't talk to it, right? Like I just, I kind of just do my thing. I count my breathing sometimes.
Yeah.
but I've heard, and maybe it's, one
I
crazy
love
person
it.
to another, but one lady told me that she actually talks to her body as she's working out, like in the morning, because she does a morning routine as well. And she'll, like she does like a head to toe kind of yoga stretch, we'll
Yeah,
call it. And she'll say, while she's stretching her neck, she'll be, talking to it, kind of like her plants, like, come on, you're flexible. You just need to, lean over just a little bit till you feel the pain. And, and I'm thinking that's
I
kind of
like it.
crazy. But,
I like
yeah,
it.
I
It's a
kind of like
mindset.
it because it puts you more in touch with your body, right? Like, I mean, that's the point of yoga, right? Is to be
Yeah,
inside your own body so that you can relate with it and understand it better. And so when she was telling me this, I'm thinking that she's crazy, right? But after the conversation, I was like, I actually kind of think she makes sense. And, she moves better, right? And it's because
I like it.
she's more in touch with her body, right?
It's also being grateful for what we actually have,
And
right?
can do. Yeah.
It's trying to switch your mindset that don't dwell on what we used to be able to do, right? Like, I know we get frustrated and we can get angry about it. It's like, oh, it's just frustrating. I can't do the same things. But if you flip the mindset to be thankful and be in your body and sort of think to yourself, like, I am still moving and I do still have mobility, and, be more um, forgiving to the changes of our bodies, we'll probably be able to accept it more and sort of become one with what's happening. I actually quite think that is lovely that she talks to her body, and it's a positive mindset to start your day, right?
And that's what I thought too. I thought, wow,
I
because
like it.
really, who do we want to talk to first thing in the morning? Right? I mean, I like to pray, right? So I kind of talk to God, right? But I really don't feel like talking to anyone else, right? Like, I'm like, let me get up, let me get my day started. And then when I feel like talking, we'll talk, right? And so, but at the same time, I'm a talker. So if I'm going to have a conversation, who best than with myself, right?
And
Telling
what better
myself,
way, yeah, with
yeah,
something that's positive.
exactly, telling myself, okay, we're going to move the body, we're going to get her moving, we're going to, she's going to have an awesome day because we're spending this time together, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, okay. So, with that being said, if I'm having a good day, because now I'm feeling better, I'm moving, I'm whatever, and all of a sudden I have this like heaviness. I'm going to call it a heaviness because I don't really know what it is. I'm going to assume it's like an emotional
Hmm.
heaviness, right? All of a sudden I feel like, oh my God, like the world feels like it's crashing down on me. And nothing really set that off. Is that something that our emotions will go through during menopause?
Yes, absolutely. There is this we have to remember, most traditional, like, we take on a lot. Like, we are the multitaskers usually of our families, and everything becomes a little more overwhelming in this phase because our emotions are also on high alert. And if you do remember, like, there's so much talk when we were younger going through puberty, right? And it's the same idea. It was our bodies changing. It was a hormonal imbalance. And I have teenage daughters, and it's interesting to watch because you're like, well, yes, of course, because your hormones are fluctuating. They cry, they're angry, they have a hard time controlling these emotions. And I think we need to give ourselves more grace on the opposite end when it's still a hormone issue. So as we're going through menopause, our hormones are playing this huge role, and they'll hit us pretty quick. And yeah, then you get frustrated because I think you have more mindset to it, to going, why am I feeling this way? Like, this is, I shouldn't. The logic comes in, you're like, I should be feeling this way, but I do. And I feel overwhelmed. And then we don't forgive ourselves for it. We just sort of push through it. And you see a lot more burnout in women in this age group, in this phase of life. A lot of people leave their jobs because they have so much burnout because of menopause. And there's not a lot of support and understanding within the workforce. And a lot of it can be really tied to the menopause phase. But then you think about how many people are exiting jobs, women with so much knowledge and information at the peaks of their career, because they just really need some accommodations put in place, just to sort of that understanding and have the conversation in the workforce as well. It is a huge upswing. I know on the other side of the pond, in like Britain and Australia and New Zealand, they are so much more advanced in menopause awareness in the workforce, and providing things like, proper areas for women to sort of, cooler areas, fitness programming, things that just support them in this phase, having accommodations. If you're not sleeping at night and you have to be at work for 7 a.m., I mean, how productive are you going to be?
Yeah.
Right. And it's to have that conversation, because it is real. And we need to have that open door policy, I think, as well, in this phase, in the workplace, even amongst our friends, to sort of, I think we judge too much. Like, oh, she used to be able to do this, right? Like, oh, what happened to her?
Yeah. Well, that's the world we live in, right? That's the society we're in. Like, we're meant to judge. It's almost, it's almost told to us that, you need to judge the other people, right? Because you can't possibly be doing this alone.
We're not. And I think what I like about doing stuff like we're doing and having these podcasts, but also we're both in the same generation, right? I love that we're starting to have these conversations, because I do feel we're running on not as much information. Like our generations before us, it really was grin and bear it, right? Suck it up, princess.
Yep.
Right. And you didn't talk about these things. And really, when you think about like our own mother's generation, I mean, my mom worked outside of the home, but there was no setups for support. Goodness gracious, she got 6 weeks for mat leave, right? Like it's changed so much. And now there's our generation coming through on the menopause side of things. And I think we're starting a nice ball rolling to say, well, we need to support each other and not be judging each other. We need to have these conversations, because it is just a phase of life. It's a fact of life.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, I mean, they're starting now. So by the time our kids go through it, right, it'll be like a natural thing in the work areas, right? Like I loved when you said they had cooler rooms. I went to a yoga class last week, and I walked in, of course, hot. And the teacher had all the fans going, and she had like cool air going through the room. And I was like, oh, this room feels like heaven. It was actually cool. Good. Yeah. And I went through the whole class and I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm dying. Right.
It's nice to hear that, because I'm also a fitness professional as well. And being more aware in the menopause arena now, I am talking to more people in the fitness world, and I'm having workshops for them specifically to say, we need to adjust some of our programs for women going through menopause. And some of it is as simple as making sure the room is comfortable for that age group, making sure that you have proper things in the bathrooms, right? It's no longer your pads, it's poise now, right? Like, just to make sure that if there's any issues or concerns, having cool towels available if you're a personal trainer dealing with women in that phase, because you will have more people feel so good that you could work with them, which would lead to obviously making sure you have a program for joint health and things, tendons, ligaments, muscle flexibility, range of motion, all that kind of great stuff. But if you create at least that beautiful, safe space, I love hearing that you had that experience, because fitness can be very challenging when you're going to the classes to make sure that you're touching everybody in a certain way, but it can also be intimidating, and women walk away if they don't feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And there were women that were quite a bit younger than me in the class, and it was cold. Like when I first sat down, I'm like, wow, it's pretty cold in here, right? How are we going to get through this? But by the time the class had ended, I was perfect, right? I'm sure some of these girls didn't feel like they got a full yoga workout, right? Because if their muscles got cold, they're not going to be able to do what they wanted to do. But it was great for me, right? And there were women that were older than me, right? And so I'm sure they felt a little bit of that, I don't know what, I was like very appreciative, right, of the cooler weather,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
And so I'm sure they felt that too, right? And so I think if we, you got to make everybody happy, but I do like that you're talking to people to create that environment so that we can feel more comfortable going, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go to a gym. Like I was in Italy this summer and it was hot, right? And
Yeah.
now during this whole perimenopause stage, I sweat instantly if I walk into a room that's higher than 25 degrees, right? And so you can't go anywhere in Italy where it's cooler than that. Like it just doesn't happen unless there's AC, right? Thank God for AC,
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Yes.
But I sweat like from the top of my head and it drips down my face. And I'm like, I'm disgusted with that. And so I'm looking at all these poor kids looking at me going, what a gross woman. Right? Because I honestly, I was sweating so much it looked like I was in a shower, right? Because the heat just got to me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why are we doing this? Why is this happening to me? Right? Now I understand, like, when you sweat, it's actually good for you because you're getting rid of toxins and all that stuff. I get that stuff. And I know that it's part of menopause. I get that. But why? Why is it happening?
I don't disagree. You do get those moments where you do feel like it's just, you can't, because I don't think people sometimes understand there's hot, like when you were younger and sweating, and then there's that heat that like that honestly feels like it's coming. Like you feel like your skin is going to explode. Like it's so hot. Like it's such a different kind of heat when you're hot outside and then you're getting these hot flashes. It's so hard to explain to people who've never experienced them.
And
Right?
I
It's
say
not
to them,
the same.
wait,
It's like, yeah, it's like burning up. Oh my gosh.
your
My
time will come, right?
my mother-in-law, God rest her soul, like she used to, yeah, she always had the windows open in December, January.
Oh,
And when we were younger, I'd be like, it's freezing in here. And she'd be like, just you wait. She always used to say, I love her to death. She also used to say, this old gray mare ain't what she used to be, my dear. Just and like I said, God bless her. I can
oh,
completely relate now because I think last night up here it was like maybe 5 degrees outside. I had the windows open and the fan going, like my poor husband. And I was like, isn't it great? Lovely in this trailer.
oh my gosh. And he's like got 4 blankets on and he's like, it's freezing in here. Yes, I've been through that situation a few times.
Yes, him and 3 dogs all underneath the covers, and I'm just like off the covers. This is great. So yes, so creating those spaces for sure that women can also feel like they can have, like they feel welcomed in, they can have a conversation, um, they can share experiences, and that they're seen because we're all going through this, and we all know that, like you said, like these very strange aches, pains, joint issues just seem to come very quickly upon us, and we don't really know what to do. But if we can't go to a space where we can ask the questions comfortably, right? So that's sort of what, you and I have these conversations for. It's like, this is important. Let's get the message out that these spaces
Yeah.
need to be created because there's a lot of women out there who have a lot of good years left, but may not feel that they can really they're in a lot of pain and they don't know how to quite manage it. And I can't
Right.
say fix it because the reality of life is, especially if it's arthritis, the arthritis doesn't go away. It's just manageable. And
Right.
right.
And I think a lot of times, and I mean, I don't know, I don't talk to a whole lot of women about this, but going to the doctor for every little pain and ache is a pain in the ass, right? I mean, pardon my language, but right, like, yeah, okay, so my arm hurt today, and yesterday was my leg, and tomorrow my hips will probably hurt. Like, it's not always the entire body, right? Like, it sort of picks and chooses when it's going to have pain. So you can't go to the doctor for every little thing. Now, you might go to the doctor and say, okay, listen, I get these pains every once in a while. Sometimes it's in my arm, sometimes it's in my leg. It's kind of the same pain, but it's hard to tell because it's a different part of my body, right? The doctors may not know every woman that's going through these pains, right? And so if we can relate it back to menopause, at least we know that, okay, the joints go through things, right? Because for whatever reason, like the estrogen that is in the body is not going to those joints, or whatever it is, right? Like that's basically what we need to know.
It's if you can sort of pinpoint it. I mean, again, if you're having chronic pain in the exact same area all the time, go and see your doctor. They take the steps, because most likely there is definitely either joint deterioration, there's arthritis involved, there could be a tear. Like, so it's that if it's the same joint and it's consistently hurting, go and get it checked. But it also could be simple as it's probably going to be arthritis, and it's probably age related. And as women, it's an estrogen usually is what's happening, is your estrogen. Again, it's inflammation. Everything's getting rough and like it's getting stiffer and just not quite as, your range of motion changes because your tendons are getting stiffer and harder. And remembering collagen plays a huge key, and we're not making as much collagen anymore. So there's a lot of age-related issues. But like you said, it's with every little ache and pain that we have, a lot of times we go to the doctor and they'll be like, you're just getting old. Like, that's usually the answer.
Right? And nobody wants to hear that, right?
Right. Nobody wants to hear that. However, it's not wrong. And it's a matter of, then what can we do to be proactive, get in front of it, and that's when we have to really take a good look at, well, how are we moving our body? How are we protecting our joints? What are we consuming in food-wise? And hoping that more holistic approach, if by chance you have other issues, added to maybe a medical approach, that you're going to live comfortably within that range. But if you don't do anything, it's not going to get better. And it's also looking at, like you said, like the color of the rainbow when we're consuming food, but also things that are that cause inflammation in the body, right? And I'm no perfect angel. I love my ice cream. That's like my thing. But like sugar and dairy and alcohol, especially, like these are inflammatory foods. So it's one of those, taking a look at what you're consuming, and it's not to say, hey, get rid of them completely. It's how much am I consuming?
And how much I need to,
right? Where can I maybe add more really good stuff and take away a little bit of the bad stuff here and there, like not completely, but just sort of rearranging it. And maybe I should move my body a little bit and getting into a local like movement class. And it doesn't have to be a boot camp.
No, right? Like hair yoga is perfect. Right.
And exactly. And remembering that strength training is also key, right? Resistance training, building up the muscle mass again, because our muscle atrophy starts in our 30s, and we continue to lose a whole bunch of muscle every
right. And so would you suggest then that weight training or resistance training is good? Absolutely. Now, like, even though like our joints and our ligaments are on the weaker side?
So you want to start to get in front of it. Like you want to make sure, depending where you're at in your fitness journey, you want to look at classes that give a good range, like beginner, intermediate, advanced. Like you want to make sure your instructor can definitely adjust you. Always remembering that strength training is good for your bone density. Strength training is good to protect your joints. Strength training is going to basically get you through into your old age if you want to stay in your home as you age, especially older adults, because core strength especially is very important. So you want to look at, okay, where am I at? Yes, I might be a beginner. I haven't exercised in a long time. where do I go? This is why you want to go and sort of ask around, ask gyms what it is they offer. A Pilates course is a great way to start for strength, right? Because it's usually body weight. It's not lifting too heavy to start. But then as you're starting to lift and you're starting to use maybe some free weights, always remembering, start small, but eventually you need to bring on the load. So every 6 weeks, change it up. Your body adjusts to your exercise, to your routine, to your movement pattern every 6 weeks. Once it adjusts, it plateaus. So if you're doing the same thing over and over again for 6 weeks, change something at week 6. If you're lifting 5 pounds, go to 8 pounds. If you're lifting 8 pounds, go to 10. If you are, doing Pilates twice a week, and maybe you go for you do a CrossFit once a week, maybe switch it up a bit. And maybe do CrossFit twice a week. So it's just a matter of, you want your body to always be sort of on surprise. So right. It always has to adjust and change.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we should be doing that anyway with our brains, right? So now we need to do it as well with our bodies.
Do it with your bodies. And also remembering to try to ask questions to the instructor, because you also want to remember, as we're getting older, range of motion, like, just the simple things as when you're driving, shoulder check, right? Like sometimes it gets harder and your whole body moves. It's the remembering that yoga flexibility, range of motion is just as important as lifting heavy, because you really do need to keep the joints limber and you need to keep them lubricated. You need to make sure the muscles are long, right? You're stretching them out, because you don't want to just do one thing and ignore another. Flexibility is very, very important. And a lot of times when you're younger and you do these classes, not at times instructors would spend 5 minutes on flexibility, and half the people would leave after 2. Which is sort of, as you're getting older, you'll see you need to kind of have a much longer flexibility, much longer stretches. So understanding and asking questions on what's the best class for you in that range, and talk to friends, have fun. That's always been my fitness motto. It's like, you're not going to do it if it's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then that's with everything, right? If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do it.
No, like, I don't care what the trend is. Like, if the trend is boot camp, or there's been trends, right? They come and they go. If a trend is dance, fitness, Zumba type thing. But if you don't like dancing, but all your friends are going, it's like, but if you don't like it, pick something that drives your soul, that makes you feel good.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to join something and then regret it because you don't really do it, and then you just feel disheartened because you're like, oh, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, I can't do it. And you feel like it's like, no, if going for walks on a nature path and doing some yoga is your jam, do it. Just keep moving. And, I always say, like, you'll find your fitness friends that like the same things you do. And then you get that accountability when you find your fitness friends.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you have a fitness program. And now I know that you have it in person only, which right is now, you're in Ottawa, right?
Yeah, Canada. I'm in Ottawa.
Yeah, in Ottawa. So you're planning on doing online someday?
I am, and it's going to be very excited. Yes. So I myself was injured in February, and so I've rehabbed my hips and knees. And I also know that it is related to menopause. And I was an instructor for many, many years, and I did a lot of high impact aerobics. And I think my body just went, yeah, I don't think so anymore. And so, right, it basically was the full stop. And I realized, well, if anything, I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to create a program that is all about joint health, mobility, flexibility, sort of like you mixing like a bar class with some Pilates, a little bit of like fluid dancing, this stuff that's fun, to like Gen X music.
Oh my gosh, I love it already.
Because I was like, yeah, I love doing flexibility and yoga and all that kind of stuff. But I also love I like a good beat, like a good jam. And I just was like, you know what, I'm going to create something. And so, yes, we're starting that here in Ottawa, Canada, Monday nights. And then once I get that going, I am looking at sort of offering it online, because I think once I sort of get the taste on how it's going to look and feel, and I can sort of iron out ideas, then I am going to say, okay, next step would be an online. I have a lot of friends who are fitness instructors who do it online. So I'm picking their brain on, all right, how does it look on Zoom?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love
And
it.
then I can share it with the world and see what they say. Because I want to have that ability, like that accessibility to others to say, yeah, we can have a fun class, and you could be in Alberta, you could be in PEI.
Right. I love it. I love it. And well, you could be all over the world, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we all got to meet everybody, all our friends in Australia and Europe, right? I love this. So now, obviously, that's not prepared yet. So you're not advertising that. But how can people
coming,
get?
though. It's
yeah,
coming.
It's coming. So how do people get in touch with you so that they can, maybe let you know to let them know once it's ready?
Oh, well, they can always, so the website, www.soulfulflow.ca, and there is a section there that says contact me. And that way they can get onto the contact list, or they can email me directly, Allison, ALLISON, at soulfulflow.ca. That's my email. And they can look me up on Facebook, and I can put you into my private group. So once they become friends with me on Facebook, if they're interested in my menopause Facebook private group, I will throw them in there. And that's where we have a lot of good information that comes about. And that's where I do a lot more of my advertising and talk about fitness, talk about food, talk about hypnosis, you name it, whatever works.
I love it. I love it. So menopause, unfortunately, is sort of at the tip of my tongue most days, right? Not always in a friendly way. I will be honest, right? I have told many people that it's not my friend, but I am trying really hard to make it my friend, because I've realized that when we embrace what's happening to us in a positive way, it just seems to flow so much better, right? So much smoother.
Circling back to what you said, talking to yourself in the morning, and when you first said that, the first thing I said to myself in my head was, yeah, it might not be very nice what I'm saying.
Right, exactly.
But it's that getting to the know, like, okay, wait a second, this joint pain, this is basically my body telling me it needs a little more TLC, so I need to take more time, and maybe take it as that blessing of, all right, my body's telling me to slow down. I'm not just going to jump out of bed. I'm going to give it the moment it needs to just sort of get up, get ready, get stimulated. I'm going to move it. I'm going to stretch it. I'm going to talk kindly to it. So menopause isn't such a negative
Exactly.
narrative. Let's not have the negative narrative anymore.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's with everything we do with our life, right? I mean, we're talking menopause right now, but at the end of the day, it's with everything we do, right? If we can take life on in a positive way, things just go smoother, right? And I think we absorb things in a better way because we have that positive mindset.
Positive mindset is absolutely everything. And being open-minded as well to different ways of managing the symptoms. So it's not going to be a magic pill every single time. It's recognizing, all right, this is a symptom of menopause. Okay, these are different things I can do on my own, and let's have the conversation with my GP and say, here's symptoms, this is what I'm doing currently, where can we tweak it, what's your opinion, where can I get support? And then just keep moving forward and just keep moving.
Yeah, that's not always easy for most people, but I know what you're saying. Movement seems to be the answer. And if
even in a chair, right? Like, it's the stretches, it's moving the body. You start where you're at, and eventually slow progression, always take the win.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love that. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners that they can focus on for the next, little phase of this, menopause, because the whole perimenopause thing, it's, it can be 15 years long, right? It can be,
Absolutely.
I feel like I've been in this for 80 years, to be honest with you. Like, I just feel like, God, when is it going to end? Right. But I don't know what's coming after either. Right. Like, once I hit that menopause 24 hours, like you said,
yeah, baby, it's coming.
Yeah. Like, I may feel even worse after. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. So what can you tell our listeners to just focus on for right now?
I would say to try to focus on basically just try to pick one thing, especially when it comes to any sort of aches, pains, if that's one of your major symptoms, trying to do one small thing every day that makes you feel good. So if it is like that sort of like a stretch, a little movement, even if it's just walking like 5 minutes and then tomorrow it's going to be 6 minutes, like picking something that you know you can do, makes you feel good. It's good for not only the body, the soul, and the mind, right? Like, it's going to help with all those things. And just pick one thing. And then once you sort of get that into your routine, right? Like, people kind of go too far, like they take on too much. It's sort of like you're already juggling so much in your menopause brain and your menopause world. Like we already said, like sometimes it's overwhelming. Pick one little tiny change. Even if it's, you know what, I'm going to eat all the colors of the rainbow every day. I'm going to pick 3 different colors. Trying to make the habit and then add to the habit later. Like, just keep adding to the habit, but just try to start one step at a time. One little small change makes a big difference. And then once that's a habit, then you can say, okay, I'm going to pick one more thing to now change, but also give yourself grace.
That's the number one thing, right? Be patient, right? Be loving, and be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself. Self-talk is key, man.
Yeah. I love this. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. I love being
these
here with you.
conversations, right? Like, I want to have one every day. I'm sure we could talk about it, right? Because I could talk about
menopause. Could talk about even, like, we could talk more than just menopause. I'm sure you and I would probably have, if we only live closer.
I know. So true. Thank you so much. Confidence in Bloom is a celebration of self-love, a confirmation that you're an amazing, desirable, brilliant, gorgeous, talented woman, even though you may not look like a screen star or a supermodel. The truth is, they don't even look like that. We offer unconditional love to our partners, our children, our extended family, even our pets. It's high time we got out of our own way and learned to unconditionally love ourselves. Chic definitely does come in every shape, so if you want something to believe in, start with yourself. If you'd like to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom and chat with me, contact me through Instagram at infobloomstyling or by email at tina@infobloomstyling.com or through the Divas That Care website.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.